Now that I've let the scheduled trace collection sit for a few hours, you can see that I have all three of my CUCM nodes here in my backed up scheduled trace collection, including my IAM and presence. If we go into the CUCM, you can see that on every hour, so today is June 21st, we have at 4:27, 5:27, 6:27, there are traces being collected. And for each one, there's different stuff. If we look under CM, trace, we've got TVS manager logs, CTI manager, TFTP manager, and CCM. If we go in here, you can see the different trace files that were collected for that whole hour. And this is something that's important to do. It's best practice, in my opinion. If you run into an issue, you'll have the traces there and ready. You don't have to worry about having to go back and reproduce the issue because you'll already have the traces from that time. Hello, and thank you for coming to check out this video. In this one, we're going to be talking about transfer data to a storage box. So we'll be talking about DRS backups, scheduled trace collection, getting packet tracers or traces from the CLI. And if we take a look at the CCIE or even the advanced call control, which these are two of the exams that I'm typically focusing on, these ones don't have anything in terms of disaster recovery or SFTP. The collaboration core, on the other hand, under the domain 1.0 infrastructure and design, when we look at 1.1e, we see that it has disaster recovery, which will be the first thing that I'll be focusing on in this video. Now, I've already installed PCD, which is Prime Collaboration Deployment. A lot of times people don't look at that as an SFTP server, but if we were to look at the disaster recovery documentation, which I'll bring up pretty soon, PCD is the only Cisco developed tax supported SFTP server. Now there are other ones if you look on Marketplace where it is a supported product, but it's jointly supported. So you have to get support for Cisco to make sure that everything is working on the Cisco side of things. But if there's a problem on the SFTP server, then you have to go to whoever it is that you're using that for. Now, PCD does not require licensing and it's a free product. So if you want to use it, just go onto the product upgrade tool, which is usually called the put tool, or ask your account team or ask Cisco TAC, whoever it is that you're dealing with within Cisco, to provide you the PCD OVA. The OVA actually has the bootable image in there, so you just deploy the OVA and stand it up and install it, very much like you would install the other UC applications. One thing to notice is that I have this on the headquarters server VLAN. The third octet is 110, and I gave it an IP address ending in .4. If we wanted to access this, we can just go over here and use an SFTP client like WinSCP is one I like. FileZilla is good as well. So in the hostname, I'll put pcd.pcanane.com. The username to get into the SFTP application of PCD is admin SFTP. And then the password is whatever you set during install. So I'll go ahead and put mine in. Now, when we connect to this server, you'll see that there's already some default directories on here. We have the root directory, which you can't really use. Then we have upgrade, restore, log, license, fresh install, export, cop, bin, and backup. The ones that I typically use are backup, cop, export, upgrade, restore. Now, if I'm doing an upgrade, I'll put my ISO files in there. If I'm exporting something off the system, like maybe doing a bulk certificate management where I'm going to export, consolidate, and then import the certificates, I might do that there. If I do like a file get on the CLI, I might put them in here. But for this video, we're starting off with doing a backup. What you'll want to do is make a different directory for each of your clusters. So this will be my HQ CUCM. And then I'll also want to put, say, HQ, let me make a new directory. HQ underscore CUC. We'd want to also do Site B and Site C CUCMs, but I won't be covering all of that in this video. I'll really only be doing the DRS backup for the headquarters CUCM, and that backup will also include the information for the IMM presence, which is integrated with that headquarters CUCM. What I'll do right now is double click here, and I'm going to copy out this path because we will need it later. We'll say OK, and then we'll go over to our CUCM at headquarters. We want to change from this page over to disaster recovery system. Then once we log in here, we need to add a backup device before we can do anything else. So we'll go under backup and we'll say backup device. We'll wait for that to load up and we'll say add new. When this pops up, we have to give it a name. I'm going to just name it PCD. For the host name or IP address, I'm going to put pcd.pcanane.com. And here's where we paste in that path that we just copied out. Same username that we used a moment ago, and we plug in our password also. Now, you're going to want to set up however many backups you feel like backing up in your lab. I'll just set up 5 and then we'll save it. So that number there, that number 5 is how many backups will be saved. So if I do a backup, once it comes time for me to do the 6th backup, the first backup will get deleted. And then when I do the 7th backup, that second backup will be deleted. So we're only going to keep 5 backups total. Now we'll go in and we will create a schedule. I want mine to be backing up my UCM and my IMM presence. I don't really care about the other stuff. The device name will be PCD. The schedule will be, I'll name it UCM underscore IMP underscore Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So now down here, we're going to say that it will start on June 21st, and I'll tell it to start at 1600. This will be done Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So now save that. And then once this is done being saved, since I don't have any backups yet, but I have done a lot of configuration, I'm going to go in here and do a manual backup. You have to select your device where you want to do the backup. I'm going to do a backup for UCM. I'm also going to back up my IMM presence. And then I'll say start the backup. So right now what's going to happen is the CUCM, the DRS master and the DRF master and the DRF local processes are going to be communicating with each other and transferring all the information, and then taking that data and putting it onto the SFTP server so that all of my configuration will be stored there. If for any reason my system goes down and I need to rebuild it, then I can go ahead and do that. Or let's say if I have all of my things integrated, my UCCX, my CUC, my IMP, everything is integrated. But what if I have to do a fresh install and I don't want to do all the baseline configurations again? I could have a backup that is my baseline configuration, and when I do that fresh install, I can pull in my old backup. Now, while I wait for this to complete, I'm going to pause the recording and I'll kick it back up once this is done. While waiting for the backup to complete, I went ahead and opened up this document, which is a document that I had written on the support forums for Cisco. And I go through and I talk about how to restart the services, things to think about when troubleshooting a backup and restore issue. And then also we talk about the IPsec certificate here in this document, and there's actually some pretty important things to note when it comes to that certificate. Also, I have the administration guide for DRS backups here, and there's a lot of great information in here. Now, if you're looking to use this information just for your career development and your day-to-day job, I recommend reading it. If you're going to go through and use this information for passing your certification, I don't really recommend diving too much into all of this documentation. Maybe just messing around with it in the lab, setting it up, doing your backups, making sure everything works, possibly referencing this document because I think there might be some certification worthy type question data in here. And let's go and check on the backup. So the backup is done. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about CDR. Pretty much everything else that's going to be in this video is not going to be on the CCIE or any of the CCNP exams that I can tell looking at the blueprints, but it is good to know for your day-to-day type of work. And I know that a lot of people do CDR for billing purposes. Now, this documentation is really good to read. If you're watching my trace reading video series, then you've seen me use this document to talk about the different cause values. And there's also good information in here that talks about the different CDR fields. Now, we can take these CDR fields and actually make an Excel spreadsheet that makes it easy for us to parse out CDR. I may do that in this video. Maybe I'll do it in a different video. But now that the backup is done, let's go ahead and get started on CDR. We'll want to move over to the CM administration page. And then once it loads up, we go under System and we do Service Parameters. Select one of your CUCMs. I've got my IM&P down here and I've got 3 different CUCMs. I'm going to select the publisher just because that's what I feel like doing. And then you select your call manager process. Next, we want to go to the CDR enable flag and set that to true. I like to have the CDR log calls even with a 0 duration value because sometimes when a call fails, if it fails outright and it doesn't have anything more than 0 seconds, right? That's the 0 duration flag. It can be helpful to have this CDR data because you can go find the call in the CDR and you can know what time did it occur, who was calling, who was called. But for now, we'll just go ahead and save it. There's one more thing I wanted to do on this page. I don't know if I have to hit advanced or not, but I want to find the call diagnostics. And I'm going to enable that for only if the CDR flag is set to true, which we've just done that. So we're good there. And then now I want to go under, let me make sure, update successful. Okay, I'll do it one more time for good measure. We'll do system, then we'll go down to the enterprise parameters. Now I'm going to do a Control F and we'll put in CDR again. And for the CDR file time interval, this is in minutes. Actually, if you click on this, you can see that right here. This is a required field. Default is 1. Unit is minutes. So I'm going to leave that as is, but in your lab, you may want to change that to something else if you choose to, but I don't really see any reason for changing it in the lab. Now let's navigate over to the serviceability page. And then once that loads up, we're going to take a look at the feature services because there's some CDR services under there. And then we'll also take a look at the network services because once again, there are some CDR services under there. So right here we have 2 different services under the CDR services. They're both started and activated. Now if we go to the control center network services, once again we can scroll down and we'll see CDR services, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different services and I have them all running. So these are important to know about if you're dealing with CDR. For now we'll remain on the serviceability page, but we're going to scroll up here to the top and go under Tools and CDR Management. I'm not going to change anything here, but I am going to add a billing server, which I'll make this my pcd.pcanadian.com, admin SFTP, same password, protocol will be SFTP. Now, I want to go back over here And I'm not going to go under backup. I'm going to go under export. And then I'll do new directory. And I'll name this CDR HQ CCM. We'll copy out that directory, plug it in here. And now we have our billing server added. Now what I'm going to do is take my wireless phone at extension 1002 and I'm going to dial 5000.
The call cannot be completed.
The call did not go through. Not exactly sure why. Oh yeah, I remember. I have to dial 10 5000 or 11 5000. So let's do that now. And the phone's ringing. So now I've answered the call. I've hung it up to prevent the feedback from being very annoying. And if we go over here to PCD and we wait just a while, we should get a file that pops up with our call information from that. Now I'll pause the recording while I wait for it to be done. So as you can see, the file never showed up. And what I remembered while I was waiting is that the CDR enabled flag falls under service parameters that are specific to a node. They're not cluster-wide parameters. Like these ones here are cluster-wide. So if I were to change anything here, it would actually be applied across the whole cluster to all my different servers. But the CDR doesn't fall under that. So I have to set these to true right here. The diagnostics enabled is cluster wide, so you can see that change was taken. Let's go ahead and save this, and sub A is now good. Let's do sub B. Set that to true, set that to true. So that's something that, you know, you mess it up a couple times and then you'll remember it for good. So if they ask me that on an exam at a later date, I'll remember that, yeah, it's only per node. So let's go ahead and do that test call again. Let me see if I can go to recents. I redialed it, but it's just not doing it. All right, so the call's going through now. The call's now connected, and I'll end the call. Let's go back over here. And I'll pause the recording again while I wait for this to show up, but it shouldn't take too long because we have it going over every 1 minute. I've refreshed now, and you can see that the CDR has been sent over, and so has the CMR. Now, if I download this, let's see, where is it going to go? I'll get it downloaded to my desktop. I'll create a new directory though, because I will delete this later since I don't need it. I'll go in there and download this file. I'll now open up my directory over here, and we'll go to desktop, CDR, and then we have this file that I'll open with Notepad++. And as you can see, it's a comma separated file. And the very first thing that we get across the top is the name for all of the different columns. And same here. It gives us the name for all the different columns, and then it tells us what type of value it's going to be. So let's go ahead and turn word wrap back off. So CDR record type is going to be an integer, and you can see that it's a 1. Whatever that 1 means, I don't know. But we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in, and this should be the calling number. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, you can see calling party number. But to try to do that is really annoying. It's better to have like a website or some sort of tool that can parse the CDR for you. I know that some people do develop their own tools for it. What I can do is I'll I'll take a moment right now to create an Excel spreadsheet that will actually parse this, and I'll put that Excel spreadsheet onto my GitHub where people can download and use it. So we have this data that we wanted to parse out, and what I did was I created this Excel spreadsheet and I locked the top, so that way it doesn't matter if we scroll down. Say we have 200 different CDR records that we're looking at, we'll always have this top part to know what column is what. Now when I paste it in here, it doesn't really look all that great, as you can see. So we go over here to data and we click on text to columns. I'm going to select eliminated and say next. I'm not doing tab, I'm doing comma, and then I'll just hit finish. And what I do want to do for all of these though is I want to set it so that everything is in the middle. Let's go ahead and do that here. All right, so now we have it where we can see what each column is, and you can see that the IP address is not done in a decimal format, but we get the original call ID. That's something that's really important to have. Let's see where the calling party number is, 1002 right there. If we scroll down a little further, we can see the port for the media. Let's see where the called number is. I think I saw the codec in here. And that's the packetization rate. Payload capability is 90, which I think is Opus. 5000 is the call party number. So what I'll do is I will highlight the columns that I think are probably the most important, and then I'll upload this to GitHub, and I'll put a link for the download into the description of this video. Now the last thing I'm going to show is on RTMT. If you go into Trace and Log Central and you do schedule collection, many people do not do this, whether it be in lab or production. But what this is going to allow us to do is have a set of different traces that we're backing up continuously in case there's any sort of an error. How many times have you run into an issue and you can't reproduce it, but you don't have the logs from when the issue occurred, so you can't really troubleshoot it? This setup that I'm about to show you actually helps in those scenarios. So what we'll do is I'm going to collect call manager traces, because that's one that, call manager is just, that's what CUCM does. I'll also do CTI manager. If you were doing extension mobility, you may want to do some of those. We have TFTP is an important one. TVS is an important one. The intercluster lookup service can be pretty important for certain people. Let's see, audit logs I would say are pretty important, which I'll be going over a video later on down the road about how to do a system health check, and audit logs is one of the things that I recommend people setting up. You do have to set those to detailed, but you don't do it like how you would for the other logs. DRF local and master are important. Installation logs are probably pretty important to have. All of the different database replication logs I would say are important, right? We got a whole slew of them here. But let's just go ahead and get a couple more and then call it a day for that. All right, that's good enough for me. So we'll hit next. I'm not doing anything on the IMP side, but if you wanted to, go ahead and do that. And then what you want to do is set a start date and time and an end date and time. What I will do is set this to 2028. And then we're going to be getting traces every hour. So what I would say to do it is collect files generated in the last 1 hour. Since we're collecting them hourly, we want to be able to get that whole gap going back a ways. And then we'll say download files to an SFTP server. We'll say SFTP. And then here I'm going to put in my pcd.pcanane.com. We already know this. Admin SFTP. And then I need to set up a directory path for this, just like what we've done on all the other stuff. I'm going to do it in my export directory, and I will name this one HQ scheduled trace collection. Now we'll copy that out. Go back over here. Is it going to let me paste it in? It did. So now we'll have to test the connection. It won't let you move forward. We have to accept the RSA key. And then once that's done, we should have our scheduled traces set up and ready. All right, all of the different nodes were successfully able to connect to everything. And now I'll hit finish. Schedule collection configuration results. Everything was successful. So now, if I find an issue in my lab at some point, and I want to go back and try to see what happened, I'll be able to go into my SFTP server, and in here I would see the logs, but I'm not going to see anything right now because we just set it up. So that concludes this video. I know I said I was going to talk about how to get packet tracers and doing file get to do an SFTP interaction, but I already have a video on that, so I'll go ahead and put that up top. It's my 4 different ways to collect traces from CUCM video. I hope there was something of value in this video for you, and I'll see you in the next one.